Welcome to Golf Talk. Fall's just around the corner, and today we're going to learn about what changes are coming with fall weather and how we golfers can help improve conditions. Again, welcome to Golf Talk. I'm your host, Pat White, and joining me today is Casey Flenniken, our Director of Golf. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Wells McClure, our Director of Maintenance. Wells, first question to you today.
Yep.
So I played Kahiti, and I noticed all those brown spots are gone that were so bad during the spring. What happened?
Well, Pat, they grew in. Back in the spring, we were worried about winter kill from the ice storm back in January. And no matter what you do to Bermuda grass, it's all dependent on your soil temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
And when those temperatures are in the 50s, 60s, even low 70s, you're really not going to get much growth no matter what you do to them. So I know back in our talk in May or April, folks were really worried that we were going to have to close fairways or resod entire fairways, resprig, do a lot of very expensive practices to get the course back. And Jordan knew after meeting with some of the professors from UT that we would be able to grow a lot of it back in. And his guys really hit it hard with fertilizer, some aerification, and keeping cart traffic off of it was a big part.
Yeah.
There's no secret why his par 3 fairways looked great in April, and his heavily trafficked, short par 4s and kind of some of those holes where it kind of funnels your traffic down the middle while they look the worst. So we were patient. We added some extra fertility into the program. They ended up laying 53 pallets of sod, which sounds like a lot, but if you break it down at 500 square feet of pallet, it's like 0.67 acres. So when you've got 40 acres of short grass, and in the spring it looked like 60% of it was dead, that 0.67 acres is quite an accomplishment for those guys. So kudos to Jordan's team. They did the right thing all summer long, and it's all back, and the way Kahiti is, as we've kind of become accustomed to. And fingers crossed for no ice this winter, because that's part of managing something that's living. Mother Nature can deal you a bad deck of cards, and it could happen again. But if it does,
and you threw a kudo to the crew down there. Much appreciated, because it affects rounds, right, Casey?
Absolutely does. I mean, Kahiti's budgeted to do just shy of 30,000 rounds, and they're on pace to do almost 34. So can you imagine not having those rounds and that revenue? So important for our golf operation and the community. So again, kudos to Jordan and his crew. It was cool for me to kind of see from a playability perspective how he was trying different things, right? Because he had never really experienced something this bad.
Growth blankets and some really kind of off-the-cuff things that he was able to do to really bring back a lot of turf.
Well, let's throw a kudos to the golfers too, because they kept signing up and playing.
They did, and they stayed off of. They stayed on the cart path.
There you
stayed
go.
out of those high traffic areas, and let that turf grow back. Which Jordan and Wells, and all their professionals, they all continued to tell us, just give it time, give it time, and here we are.
But thanks to the golfers for staying off.
Yep, absolutely.
What was the saying that you got in my head?
If it's brown, go around.
There
right?
you go. Yeah. Wells, one more question. So I'm playing Tenacity this week, and I noticed that there's very little effect on the recent aeration you did on all 3 courses. It's just amazing that you aerated the greens and the putts are staying much truer than typical. Why do you aerate in the fall?
Well, Pat, the way our bent grass grows, it spreads laterally, vegetatively through underground, below the surface, stolons, rhizomes, stems. And over time, that mat will kind of build up, and it traps water in the top 2 inches. That's what leads to spongy greens. And when we first got to Tellico in 2011 or 12, the aeration on the courses was very minimal. There was no weekly or bi-weekly sand top dressing. The spring and fall aeration were with a very small hole, so they weren't able to dilute that organic layer in the top 1.5 to 2 inches. And so, balls would plug into the green. The greens would stay really wet through the summer. When it would get hot, that's when the greens would start to thin out. So when we first started, we did what we call a traditional core aeration. We would do it twice in the spring, twice in the fall. That's pretty disruptive. I mean, if folks remember how the greens are in March through April, they take a little longer to heal. Number one, because of soil temperatures. Number two, because of just the process. You know, we're pulling a big core, we're backfilling it with sand, we're dragging a lot of sand into the green, and we did that for 4 or 5 years until we were able to correct that top couple inches. Now for the last 5 or 6 years, we've gone still aggressive in the spring, remove a lot of organic matter, but get a lot of sand back into the green. But in the fall, we've introduced this process called a dry ject. And the dry ject is it's a franchise that, you know, there's a company in Tennessee that covers all of Tennessee. They're the only ones with the machines. And they pull the machine across the green. It's got a big sand hopper on top. We plug an irrigation hose into it, and they've got these jets on the machine about every 3 inches across a 48-inch machine. And it shoots really high pressure water into the green to create a hole, and then the vacuum of that water going in pulls sand in behind it. So it effectively, we're not removing a core, but we're doing so much removal in the spring still and doing so much weekly top dressing throughout the summer that we don't feel like we need to remove a core in the fall. It's a great process. We're closed for 1 day at each course, whereas, you know, in a traditional core aeration, it's 2-3 days typically. And then it could take 2 or 3 weeks to get really good puttable greens again. And with this process, it's a small hole, it fills it right to the top, and the next day they're extremely puttable. So we have to do that to continue just to dilute the organic layer, keep the greens firm, introduce new sand into the soil profile, and you know, just agronomically continuing to do the right things to maintain our putting surfaces.
Well, when the cool temperatures in the fall, like now, are daily, almost daily, the grass on the greens grows back faster, doesn't it?
It does, like, you know,
rather than like the Bermuda needing full sun.
Yeah. So we're in the transition zone here. If we went, you know, 100 miles north, typically everything's a cool season grass, whether it be bentgrass, fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, or if you go 100 miles south, everything's a warm season grass. It's always a Bermuda. You know, so here we grow really good Bermuda grass from, say, you know, June 1st, sometimes as late as June 15th through the end of August. And we grow really good bentgrass, you know, mid-March into maybe June 15th when that stress period hits, and our nights get in the 70s, our days are in the 90s, and then the bentgrass kind of slows down. It doesn't perform as well. And then, you know, on the backside of that heat is when our bentgrass really starts really recovering from summer stress, and then our Bermuda grass is kind of shutting down. So it's kind of a constant balancing act throughout the year, just geographically where we are in the nation, and it's kind of a band that runs all the way across the United States.
Well, for the viewers, we're filming this the second week of September.
Yep.
We have about how long before they should be fully healed?
I would give it another week, maybe another week, 2 weeks. You know, by the end of September, they'll definitely be in. So we do things to restrict the bentgrass growth on greens because we want them to putt similar throughout the entire day. So when we pull what we call a plant growth regulator, we spray that on the greens. Depends on the time of year, the temperatures, but the interval can change. It can be every 10 days, it can be every 2 weeks. But as we spray that on, what it does is it inhibits gibberellic acid production within the plant, and the gibberellic acid in a plant is what causes cell elongation, causes the plant to grow.
Holy cow.
Right?
Spell that.
So,
yeah, really.
So right now, we're not restricting GA or gibberellic acid production, so the greens are growing a little faster than what we would normally want. But we want that right now because we're trying to heal those holes back in. Right. So as we notice those holes getting close, we'll put that growth regulator back in to restrict the GA production, and then that's kind of when you get good consistent greens from the time we cut them at 6:30 to 8 o'clock in the morning all the way up until your 4 o'clock tee time in the afternoon.
He's got my head spinning. How about you, Casey?
I think I got a player tip.
Play early.
Okay. So when we aerify, obviously there's those holes in the green, right? I see so many players that will hit putts, and then they go and they get 2-3 feet from the hole, and they'll hit that putt and miss it, and I'll see that ball bounce.
Yeah.
Why do you think it bounced? Because it was in one of those holes.
Yeah.
Take your corn, mark that ball, and just slide it just a half inch over, and don't putt it from out of an aeration hole. Yeah. It's going to bounce straight up out of there, and your line and your speed is going to be affected, and you're not going to make it.
Yeah. Okay. Very good tip.
Yep.
I love this time of year. The Bermuda fairways are not going dormant. The greens are coming back in as well, as just talked about. Fair weather golfers come out and play. I'm not saying that as a negative. We want them to come out and play. This is the best time to come out.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the fair weather golfers don't understand the nuances of the game, and they can turn a 4-hour round into a 6-hour round, which you have 18 foursomes, 17 foursomes behind you that are quite upset.
Yep.
Because they're going to be on that course 2 more hours. Give us some suggestions to that golfer that doesn't play regularly, what they can do to keep up with pace of play.
Absolutely. So a couple of things that are always in my mind is whoever's in control of the golf cart. So if, Pat, if you and I are in a golf cart and I know that I'm going to hit first and you're going to go walk up 20 yards and hit second, well, one thing that you can do is you can go ahead and have your club in your hand and you can be ready to walk as soon as I hit. Number 2 is you need to take your putter with you because you're close enough to the green to walk to the green.
Right.
And I can take the golf cart and we meet each other at the green about the same time. A couple other things I'll see is people don't take their golf, like on par 3s, they'll walk up to the tee, look at the yardage, walk back to the cart, then grab the club, then walk back to the tee, right? So on the scorecard, it tells you the hole length, and that's to the middle of the green. So if it says 155, so whatever club goes 155 yards, might be your driver, might be your 7-iron, right? Depending on the player. Well, then take the clubs in that range, right?
Sure.
Like 6, 7, and 8-iron, or whatever you need to get it to go 155 yards. And then when you get up there, if you've got a rangefinder, then you can shoot it. I see a lot of people on the greens take a lot of time. And I understand that, especially in the fall, the greens are going to be really good. They'll be a little quicker, right? They've got a lot of undulation and slope in them. But play ready golf, right? If you're ready to hit and I'm not, you need to go ahead and hit, right? It's not necessarily always about who's furthest away, right? It's ready golf. If nobody's in danger of you hitting. Now, sometimes I understand that that's harder than it sounds, right? But playing ready golf definitely would help.
Well, let's talk about something else. And again, you and I are in the golf cart.
Yep.
We're playing together. You hit. There's now a delay, a built-in delay, because now either I'm going to walk to my shot or whatever. Coming off a green, you have that delay.
Yep.
You have a delay filling out the scorecard.
Yep.
All that can be done at the next shot.
That's correct.
And I think experienced golfer is going to call that hit and sit.
Yep.
In other words, you go back to the cart, sit down with your club, and then replace it when your fellow golfer's hitting his shot.
That's correct.
Or her shot.
Absolutely. When you get to the next tee, that's the time while other players are teeing off to fill out the scorecard and recap the previous hole. And
Exactly.
Exactly.
And that's allowing the group behind you to continue their play because
Correct.
you're not sitting next to a green calculating numbers.
Yeah, if you're sitting near the green or near the landing area of a hole, you feel like you're out of the way, but nobody wants to hit you, right? And so just get yourself out of the way so the group behind you can go ahead and proceed with play.
Well, good suggestions. Thanks. Casey, I noticed that the Tenassi Clubhouse Foundation has now been removed, and there's a big pile of dirt over there where they filled in. What's coming up in Tenassi? I understand, I've seen in the telegrams, the emails that you guys sent out, that there's some parking pattern changes coming.
There will be, so depending on when the contractor is finalized and what phases they want to go in, we'll figure that out once construction starts. But for the time being, there is a construction entrance there. It's to the left side if you're coming from 444. It's on the left side of the main Tenassi entrance.
That's the gravel entrance.
It's a gravel entrance, right? And that's for construction only, and that's actually TDOT property, Tennessee Department of Transportation. And so we've actually adjusted some tee sheets in the coming weeks to 10-minute intervals at Tenassi instead of the 9-minute, 8-minute, 9-minute intervals that we're currently on, because overflow parking was getting out of hand, and there were days where people were parked against the retaining wall. We actually had an accident in the parking lot, and then another accident involving a golf cart in the parking lot trying to avoid traffic. So it just got a little out of hand. We had people parking on the gravel lot, that the construction entrance, and that's definitely a no-no. So we put appropriate signage out there now, and our staff will be making sure that nobody parks on that lot. I think the things that could help, I would love to see us get back to maybe 9-minute interval tee times if we could.
Yeah.
Some things that could help, carpool. Carpool would be the number one. If you're playing at Tenassi, carpool. Obviously, while Wells and his team were completing the aeration process, and Tellico was closed or Kahidi was closed, that only left us with 2 golf courses, so those 36 holes were packed, so Tenassi saw some overflow there. And then, as you said, we'll start to see some people we haven't seen during the heat of the summer.
Sure.
It's going to be the best time of year to play, so We fully anticipate being busy, and we just want to make sure that we keep everybody safe.
Absolutely. That would be the priority, is stay safe, be cognizant of what's moving in and out of that congested parking lot.
Yep, absolutely. Go slow.
Second would be safe. You've got a vehicle, you got golf carts, and we don't want anybody to have any damage.
Absolutely not.
And we definitely don't want to have somebody potentially have a car towed because you parked and trucks cannot get in there or out. And
Absolutely.
they need to keep that construction moving.
They must, and TDOT is all over it too. We've got to play by their rules, right?
Right.
And be on the same team as them. So
Yeah.
we just need to keep people off of it, and that's why we've got the appropriate signage there. Don't
Very
move the cones.
Very good. Wells, question to you.
Mhm.
We just got through talking about different types of grasses and how some grow during the cooler weather. Bermuda does not like cool weather. Bent grass does. We're about to get into fall where the the Bermuda,
Yep.
see, I'm confused already. The Bermuda will start going dormant.
Yep.
And us golfers are typically following the fairway markers, following the exit fairway markers. Comes to mind, see Brown go around.
Mm-hmm.
Gets a little further than that though, does it? Because now we're into protecting fall
Yep.
and what's coming up in this winter where it's totally dormant.
Yep.
What can we do to help you?
Yep. So like we talked about earlier, the Bermuda grass is slowing down. In the June, July, August, we're mowing our fairways, tees, green surrounds, 2, sometimes 3 times a week because it is growing so much. So when it's growing that much, it can recover from cart traffic quite easily. But now with these 50, low 60-degree mornings,
Mhm.
we've noticed it slow down quite a bit. I mean, we're mowing twice a week and not hardly cutting anything. Our rough is not growing much. We're also in a pretty major drought right now.
Yep.
We got like 1.5 inches of rain the whole month of August, which is the driest we've had in August since 2016. So that's affecting the ability for the grass to recover as well. So, if you're playing Kahiti and what's it, the number, number 6, I guess,
Mhm.
6, 7, one of those holes, where the traffic is primarily right down the middle.
Right.
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them right down the middle. So if you notice an area you can tell when there's been a lot of cart traffic on it, just try to avoid it. If it's nice and green and lush looking, that's where you want to drive. If it's
Right.
beat down and, you can tell there's been a lot of cart traffic go around it. And then even the cart signs, the exit stake may be in a spot. And Tenassie, we're kind of limited where the cart signs or the exit sign can be because we have these huge curbs that you
Right.
can't drive over. So sometimes, we'll move the cart exit sign to a different spot, but it's still a spot that gets heavily trafficked. So rather than exiting right at the post, maybe go back another 10 feet.
Sure.
And if that means you're up past it to get to your ball, and then you have to come back and exit, just look for the green grass to drive through and try to avoid some of those really heavily trafficked areas because it will definitely have a negative effect in the spring and through the fall as well.
Yeah, and those are the areas that get highly susceptible to winter kill too.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Right, they get packed down.
Yep.
Grass is not growing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But I mean, we're doing record rounds right now, so these concentrated, and the way our courses are built, you can't just exit anywhere all the way down the hole. A lot of times it's like at Tenassie, I think a number 2, for instance. I mean, if we put the exit post all the time before that first fairway bunker on the right, you're 100+ yards from the green. So we try to move it
Sure.
forward and back.
Yeah.
So when we move it forward, now you've kind of got this one spot to go through between the 2 fairway bunkers. So again, I mean, just because the post is there, maybe think about it and go, I can drop back here and exit.
So it's a limit. It's a guideline for me to take the cart not past the post, but I can exit anywhere I want.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if I'm wanting to maintain the golf courses and play on a decent course just as the grass starts coming back in March,
Yep.
I can do that by maintaining the cart traffic
Mm-hmm.
during the fall and winter.
Yep. And one way that you can help maintain some of those areas down the middle of the fairway, like at Kahiti, where they're kind of saddled out, and it is a true 90-degree rule. I mean, you drive down 6, take a left, go down, hit your ball, go straight back to the cart
Sure.
path, and then go down the cart path to get to the green, rather than going down the middle of the fairway until it beeps at you, and then going up to the exit
Right.
that everybody else takes.
Right.
So.
Okay, good.
Another suggestion I'd like to give for Kahiti especially is there's a ton of private cart, property owner owned carts out there. And this winter, I mean, you want good grass this spring. If you're in a foursome with 4 private carts, you're not doing your due diligence, right? Throw in on another private cart. You guys can swap each day who drives and who rides, but taking 4 private carts would permit that, and we try to. But sometimes, if it does get out there, we don't want to see that. We want to see 2 carts per foursome so that we can protect the turf.
Yeah, good suggestion. Casey, as usual, could you update us on the rounds we played year to date, and let's see, calendar of events.
Yeah, absolutely. Year to date, we are actually just on pace to do what we did in 2023, which we've always talked about was our banner year. And, Wells and I talked about this a lot. In August there was only 1.5 inches of rain at each of the 3 golf courses. So Mother Nature is the #1 impact, and as long as Mother Nature cooperates, you're going to see Tellico Villagers supporting the golf operation and playing a lot of golf, especially as we get into the better weather. So hopefully September's the same. I know we have some chances for some rain next week, but we'll see how that goes. And then calendar-wise, we'll finish out some of our leagues as we get into kind of the middle of October. We'll start to see some of our leagues have their closing days. They won't play November through March. But the first weekend in October, the 5th and the 6th, is the TV MGA member tournament being held at Tellico Village. 200 players, and so we're actually doing a shootout this year, which would be the first time we've ever done it, kind of like the member guest, where we'll take the flight winners, go do a shootout, and determine an overall winner. So it'll be
good
neat.
idea.
Yep. So we've got an ovarian cancer tournament going on at Tellico. We have the Tennessee Wesleyan collegiate event going on at Kahidi. They have a men's and a women's event actually, so that's a good partnership with them. We bring in quite a bit of revenue through those events. So we've got a lot of events going on in September. As we said, in August we ran 44 events. In September there's 42 events. So no difference, right? We're busy but we're prepared for it. Our staff does a great job.
Well, let's go right to the next segment. We talked about cool weather. I went out and played, as I said, Kahidi this week. Step on the golf course, 52 degrees. Got a pullover. By the 9th hole, the pullover's gone. If I'd had shorts, I'd have changed into the shorts. So you're leaving when it's 85 degrees, but you're showing up 52. I noticed that a lot of people, not a lot, a few people that we played with left things in the cart. Those pullovers are expensive. Clubs are expensive. And the, what do we call that thing that you got in all, lost and found. The lost and found bucket tends to grow.
It does.
What suggestions do you guys have? Because you got to be finding this stuff on the course too, head covers and all that. What do you suggest we do?
Well, for me, I know I always put my head cover in the seat that I'm sitting in, so then I can't forget it. And as far as pullovers and things, I always put them in the basket, and I always check the basket. I know for us as a golf staff, one of the #1 things we find is 4 or 5 years ago, you have your rangefinder, and they come out with the magnetic pieces that go around it, and it's kind of a case for it, protects it, and then you could just put it on the metal bar alongside you on the golf cart. Well, everybody forgets them because they're looking down in the cubby holes. So making sure I've got my rangefinder. I actually will put my keys to my truck in my rangefinder case. So I know every time I get in there, okay, do I have my rangefinder, and I'll fill it in there. So I don't know. I'm sure you find all kinds of wedges and.
Yeah, we find quite a bit on the golf course, and our staff is advised. As soon as you find something, turn it in. Head covers is probably what we find the most. Just folks sitting on top of their bag and then drive off, and the head cover falls out. Rather than going around the whole golf course, if you lose your head cover, chances are it's already been picked up and turned in. So rather than coming backwards 2 or 3 holes, just check at the turn. If it's not there, check when you finish.
Well, I think one of the things that we can do as golfers is help each other out. So when you get out of the cart, if I'm the passenger, I usually check the little cubby hole. Now we have the little cubby up above. Turn around and look at the basket. Sometimes somebody asks me a question, I forget. And my buddy driving the cart should be doing the same. And we help each other out,
Absolutely.
right? And all of that expensive equipment that we're leaving laying around, ending up in a lost and found bucket, will save us a lot of bucks.
To be fair, every time I get done, I pull into the cart staging area and I empty all the trash out of my golf cart, so there's nothing left. So
That's right.
If you do that, then you've found everything.
Then you're done. Thanks again for watching Golf Talk this month. We hope you enjoyed the show. We would greatly appreciate you subscribing to the TVN. You can see that on your screen. We appreciate all your comments as well and hope you will join us again next month.